We previously saw in the last few scenes that Macbeth and Lady Macbeth were going to hold a feast and invite Banquo to attend. Banquo accepts her invitation and plans to go on a horse ride first. Macbeth then hires murderers to kill Banquo, the one man he is afraid of in all of Scotland, as stated in a soliloquy.
In Act 3, Scenes 2-5, we witness Lady Macbeth and Macbeth begin to experience doubt and question if killing Duncan was worth all the trouble. Now they must kill many more in order to conquer the throne and cement Macbeth's position as king. It is in this scene that they realize their unease from killing Duncan will never fully dissipate, and they may never gain a sense of closure as there may always be someone suspecting them. Lady Macbeth feels as though it is better to be killed rather than live in constant fear and doubt. This foreshadows Lady Macbeth's eventual action to end her life later in the play. However, this time they ultimately decide to drop the subject and mask their insecurities as they are in the presence of guests.
To ensure that the witch's prophecy becomes true, Macbeth sent 3 murderers to kill Banquo and his son, Fleance. The murderers were successful in killing Banquo. Fleance, however, escaped. When the murderers relay this news to Macbeth, he becomes distraught, exclaiming that killing Fleance was a necessary action. Later, at the dinner feast, Macbeth comes face to face with the ghost of Banquo. However, it's easily realized that the ghost of Banquo is merely a fiction of Macbeth's mind, a result of massive amounts of guilt arising from murdering his friend. The guests become distressed, seeing Macbeth in this form, yelling and entirely disheveled. Thus, Lady Macbeth sends the guests away for the night. In the next scene, she then proceeds to question Macbeth's courage, bringing up the theme of masculinity and femininity.
Macbeth then resolves that he has already committed so many murders that he will do whatever he must to secure the throne. He will also go and see the 3 witches the next day to find out what lurks in the near future. In this last scene of this section, we see Hecate, the goddess of witchcraft, scolding the 3 witches for not consulting her first regarding Macbeth and his actions. Hecate, wanting to take advantage of the situation, decides the 3 witches will give Macbeth false hope and reassurance that he is secure when he comes to visit. In these scenes of the play, we can see many themes being portrayed, one of them being betrayal. It is an important part of the story because it is how the changes in power occur. Macbeth is rewarded for his loyalty to the king, while he will likely face consequences for his actions, murder, later, impacting his status. This theme is seen when Macbeth plots against Banquo and later pretends he has no idea how he died. After Banquo's death, we see that in Scene 4, Macbeth and Lady Macbeth experience regret and guilt stemming from their murder. Their plan was not successful, and as a result, they now have more problems to deal with. Furthermore, Macbeth committed murders before thinking of the consequences, and that has led him to feel awfully guilty that he killed his good friend. Thus, feeling overwhelmed, he sees the ghost of Banquo, likely a result of his subconsciousness trying to deal with his guilt. Now, the reason why guilt is continuously brought up is to further develop the characters.
As we read on, another theme emerges: ambition and moral control. Macbeth killed Banquo so no one would stand in his way on his path to the throne, and he is willing to do anything, as shown in these scenes, to become King of Scotland. Through these events, we can see that the overarching theme expressed is ambition and moral control. As a result of decisions made purely on ambition, Macbeth finds himself now having to hurt many more than originally intended, as he is sinking further into blood. Whereas if he had shown morals and constraint, and had gotten a grip over his greed for power, he would not be in such a predicament, and neither would he have a guilty conscience. It is here we can see a difference between Macbeth and Banquo. Macbeth acted on ambition to try and gain the throne, and this is in contrast to Banquo, who also heard the witch's prophecies, yet showed moral control and as a result did not resort to murder.
The characters change as the play progresses. Specifically, Macbeth becomes more resolved to gain power, resorting to violent means and slowly losing his moral conscience. Macbeth does not believe in gaining a sense of closure, resulting in one death leading to another, as shown in Act 3, Scene 2, lines 15 to 22, in which Macbeth states that there is almost no way they will gain closure and that thus their insecurities and fear should have died alongside Duncan. Each time he kills someone, instead of feeling safer, he becomes increasingly horrified, as there are more people he must then kill. This showed us the deeper part of Macbeth's character and taught us that being jealous of others can result in consequences. Macbeth's resolve shows us that when we act without thinking of the repercussions, often we see no harm repeating those actions, and we see that to Macbeth, loyalty and honor are morals that only weaken his resolved lust for power.
In the case of Lady Macbeth, she also came to regret murdering Duncan and Banquo and feels responsible as she was the one who encouraged Macbeth to kill Duncan. After having a change of heart, she tries to talk Macbeth out of further violence. As a result of the guilt she feels, Lady Macbeth becomes shocked that even though they have gained the throne and power, it has not brought them peace or happiness, the reason as to why she also feels regretful and unsatisfied. Lady Macbeth's conflict shows us the consequences of regretful actions. Through this struggle, she learns a lesson that is a major factor in her character growth. Furthermore, she starts to realize in this section that her actions cannot be reversed and must always live in fear and insecurity, never gaining a sense of closure. She expresses that Duncan is a lucky one, as now dead. For what purpose is a life if it must be lived in doubt and fear? Throughout this play, Lady Macbeth becomes someone that feels regret, guilt, and fear from her actions and inevitably becomes tormented by them.
The passage that we analyzed was Act 3, Scene 4, line 93 to 110. The literal meaning of this section was Macbeth is yelling at the ghost of Banquo that only he can see. Lady Macbeth tries to calm her guest by telling them Macbeth is always this disturbed, and that this is a common occurrence. Macbeth wants Banquo to stay buried in the ground because he feels intimidated by the ghost's glare, even though it does not have bones, blood, or even the power of sight. Macbeth expresses that no matter what form Banquo takes, he will not be afraid to face him, for if he was, then his manhood would be tested, and if Macbeth does become scared, he will be as manly as a little girl's doll, in other words, not manly in the slightest. However, as we look at the deeper meaning, we realize that Macbeth feels his masculinity is threatened when Banquo is present. This is shown through the lines, "Why so, being gone, I am a man again."
We also know that, as previously explained, in Scene 3, Act 4, Macbeth feels immeasurable amounts of guilt from killing Banquo. He only sees Banquo's ghost as a result of a guilty conscience for killing him, as shown through these lines, "That the earth hide thee, thy bones are marrowless, thy blood is cold." As a result, he cannot differentiate from appearances and reality. He thinks Banquo's ghost is real, yet only he can see it. This is suggested through Macbeth screaming at the ghost, seen through the use of exclamation marks in the passage. It becomes clear that Macbeth killed Banquo for the purpose of gaining power, as his power was threatened when Banquo was present. By murdering Duncan, Macbeth brought chaos to Scotland, breaking up the harmony of a well-ordered country, just as he broke up the state of the banquet, with the most admired disorder. You have displaced the mirth, broke the good meeting with the most admired disorder.
In this passage, the reader begins to understand how Macbeth's quest for power, wanting to become king, led him to commit acts as horrendous as murder, as we now see that the more people that Macbeth kills, the more he fears, rather than gaining satisfaction and reassurance. We can also see that guilt is a horrible feeling, and it can lead to one confusing reality with appearances, as he sees Banquo's ghost, but in actuality there's nothing there. This makes the reader understand and get a sense of how guilty Macbeth is feeling, as well as show us that he might be going crazy as a result of wanting so much power.
Metaphors are powerful literary devices that Shakespeare frequently uses to elevate his writing. In lines 105 and 106, Macbeth makes a comparison of himself to a doll, which alludes to him being frightened of Banquo. This serves as evidence to Macbeth's cowardice throughout the play. It reveals the insecurities that Macbeth has and his reliance on his wife. Perhaps a more significant metaphor can be found in line 100. "Approach thou like the rugged Russian bear, the armed rhinoceros of Thirken tiger." He mentions mighty beasts like bears, tigers, and rhinoceros to reference his bravery towards Banquo. In front of any form that Banquo may take, his nerves shall never tremble, which is a personification, except, of course, his own guilt. This metaphor provides imagery and clarity to the extent of which he is doubting his own bravery and manliness, but more importantly, it sets the tone and the mood for the mountain of guilt that Macbeth is carrying. The exclamation marks add the final touch to express the chaotic mess that is going on inside Macbeth's head, present at the end of the words shadow and hence.
Macbeth has an ambitious atmosphere. This section makes the reader feel empathetic for Macbeth or angry with him because of what he did. A scene of suspense and expectation is built throughout the section. Shakespeare does a good job making the reader resent Macbeth at points, and then making the readers feel sympathetic for him. It is apparent that Lady Macbeth was crucial to the play, as the fact she had so much power over Macbeth made the story more dynamic. This scene can help readers understand the depth of Macbeth's guilt. We chose to analyze this scene as we feel it represents one of the central themes of this play, ambition and moral constraint, along with guilt and conscience. This scene reflects all of Macbeth's actions and what they have led to. We understand the main theme hidden underneath this is that if Macbeth had shown moral constraint and had thought of the repercussions when trying to gain the throne, instead of acting on his pure ambition, today he would have spared himself from this immeasurable amount of guilt upon his shoulders. We can also see one of the main lessons of the play reflected in this scene. We should always think before we take any action, and that often power is dangerous and can make a person go to extreme lengths, as we are witnessing through Macbeth's actions. Overall, we think that this scene, on surface level, may appear unnecessary, yet when looked at deeper, reflects and explains many of the central themes of this play. Here is a little recording from the song we chose.
The sinister undertone portrayed in our scenes is reflected through our song choice. Macbeth's intentions are always ominous. He plotted to kill Duncan and Banquo in order to gain power and become the king. In order to reflect the undertone that was shown, we chose an eerie song. The song transitions from a more creepy and soft tone to one with a strong beat, resembling an atmosphere as if one was preparing for war. This can be compared to Macbeth's increasing ambition for power as the play develops. At first, he was hesitant with all the killing. However, after realizing there is no point in going back since they have already killed so many, his mindset changed. Now he will do whatever he can to obtain the crown, fitting in with a change of tone in the song.
Thank you for listening to our presentation. We have also included a quiz right after this in our video presentation. However, if you prefer, we have also attached a doc with our quiz on it.